When it comes to simplifying, many of us turn to decluttering as a way that we can remove the excess. However, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 8 simple habits to help you prioritize what matters most, as well as live a more meaningful life. Hello, you guys, and welcome to Abundantly Minimal. My name is Sarah, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really eager to share these 8 habits because in my own life, they have helped me a lot, not only as I've simplified my space, but just simplifying my mindset and my way of life, helping me live more intentionally. Switching up our habits can be challenging because it often requires willpower, and it can be easy for us to want to slip back into our old habits. But I hope that you'll find that these habits can be simple enough that they can be implemented no matter where you're at on a minimalist or intentional living journey. Let's begin. The first habit is to take time for yourself. It can get very easy in today's society to feel like we're on the go all the time, always working, always trying to help others or work on something for others. And it can be tough to really take that intentional time to focus on yourself. Now, the good news is this doesn't have to be a lot of time, but if you can build in even just a few minutes here or there, that is just you time. For a lot of people, they talk about this being first thing when they wake up. Just a few moments to kind of reflect about the day you have coming up or the day so far, or what you are looking for towards the next day. Practice gratitude. Think about what you're thankful for. Maybe you're even just quieting your mind and not even trying to think about anything and practice a little bit of meditation. Regardless of how you choose to spend it, this extra time for yourself can be essential in promoting self-care and helping you live your best life. If you haven't already been taking some time for yourself, I would encourage you today to actually get started, even if it's just for 1 minute. Even though a lot of us are really busy, I'm sure that most of us can find 1 minute at least somewhere in the day where we could take that time for ourselves. And hopefully that minute can even become 5 minutes or 10 minutes as we go. My second simple habit for a more minimal life has to do with paying close attention to the items that are coming into your space. This could manifest itself a couple different ways. First, it could obviously refer to the physical stuff. Even as we've simplified our lives and live more of a minimalist lifestyle, consumption is still a part of life. So we need to learn how to work with different temptations and really be mindful of the specific items we're purchasing. When you're at a store and you're thinking about buying something, really decide if that's going to add value, if it's going to be very useful to you, and if you need to have it at that time. I think if we allow ourselves to wait a bit on a purchase before making it, it can become more clear to us whether or not we actually need that. When we think about why we purchase certain things, oftentimes it's emotions that are leading us to buy certain items, and then we justify it with logic. If we can try to hack the system and be much more level-headed and less emotional when making purchases, it can be much more helpful. I know in the past, I definitely bought certain items based upon emotion, thinking, oh, I would love to, look better, so I'm gonna buy this particular outfit because I think it's gonna be more flattering. Or I'm feeling a little bit stressed right now, so let me buy these unhealthy treats because I deserve it. Those kind of thoughts where we're basing our purchases on emotion can lead us to make negative choices that ultimately, in the long run, are not going to help our finances or even our health. The same is true for bringing in different foods into our space. We want to choose foods that are going to help nourish us, not foods that are going to make us feel sick and tired. This is also true for things that we're not paying for, such as the mail we bring in. Do you ever bring in the stack of mail and just leave it sitting there on the table waiting to deal with it later? When we get the mail, I like to walk over right towards the recycling bin and just take care of anything that's not going to be useful right away. And you also might want to see if you can get yourself removed from any list where you're getting a lot of mail. And lastly, other free items that are coming into your space. If something's useful, sure, free is helpful. But a lot of times those freebies that are given out for various reasons are not actually what we need. So better to get rid of those right away. I think habit number 3 is really important, especially if you're someone who has a tough time disconnecting from work. And that is to set a cutoff time where you are no longer allowed to work on your work or job related items. It can be very common for us to feel like we need to put in a lot of hours at work, and sometimes it's tough to separate our own lives from our jobs. I know Jake and I have both felt this being teachers. But what's very important is to acknowledge that you are not your job and there should be a separation there. So with that in mind, even if there are tasks for your job that have to be done at home, if you can set a cutoff time to say when it gets to be 8 o'clock p.m., 9 o'clock p.m., whatever the time is for you, that's when I'm done working. I'm not going to work past that. And if you hear this tip and you're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't do that, I have to get that work done. Let's try to find some compromise. What time are you currently stopping work? Could you push that up 15 minutes, a half hour? Are all of these tasks you're doing absolutely essential, or can they wait? I know for myself, as I have reduced the amount of time I'm working on my teaching job at home, that's allowing me to get more sleep. I'm getting a lot more sleep than I used to, which is great. I mean, it's still not wonderful, but it's better. I've also found that a lot of these tasks I had been staying up to do, they're things that I could get done in the morning before the school day starts, or maybe they're not even essentials anyway. So when you can think more strategically about that, it can save you a lot of time and also really promote a healthy work-life balance. Next up, habit number 4, step away from your devices. Whether it's a phone, tablet, computer, the more time we're spending on our devices can be a challenge, especially thinking about going to bed. I would really recommend, if possible, keeping these devices out of your bedroom at all costs. I know some people do depend on their phone for an alarm. This is a case where I do feel like an alarm clock could be better, especially if you find yourself mindlessly scrolling, or if you find your sleep is disturbed by different notifications that are coming in. When we can completely remove our phone and other devices from, an area of refuge and rest, which is what our bedrooms should really be, I think it's a much healthier lifestyle. And I think a lot of that stuff that might be disrupting us, that stuff's not usually that important that it can't wait until the morning. So I'd recommend when you go to bed, leave your devices in a completely separate room. And also it can be really helpful to not look at the devices right before bed. Build in some time. For me, I still do spend a lot of time on the computer working, even if it's not on my actual job, it's on my work with Abundantly Minimal or my teaching business, Mr. and Mrs. Social Studies. But I do always try to make sure there's at least 15 to 30 minutes before I actually go to bed where I'm not looking at screens. So for me, that's a great time to do some of the reflection I talked about at the beginning for the time to myself. I'll tidy up our space at that time. Just building in habits where we're not looking at the screen can be really helpful for us before we're going to bed. For habit number 5, build in time for the activities that you really enjoy. To have a really meaningful life and a life that is intentional, you will be spending time doing things that you enjoy. Think about the activities you enjoy most. Now, you might already be doing these activities on a regular basis, and if so, awesome, keep it up. But if you're not, if there are certain things you'd like to do more of, what's stopping you? What's holding you back? We really want to think about ways that we can incorporate these into our daily lives. And the great way to do that when we're talking about building habits is to start really small. I would encourage you to think about those things that give you a lot of value that you want to do more of. For me, reading is one of those things. When I was a student in school, I was reading so much. One of my years in middle school, I actually read over 100 books during the year. I was loving reading. But as I got into high school and college, and then as a teacher, I just found that I really didn't have the time to read much. I read a few books during my master's degree program last year, but I really wasn't reading anything for fun outside of that, at least in book form. So it's been fun to, a little bit last year and then this year as well, start implementing more reading into my day. Now, I'm still not reading as much as I would like, but one great strategy if you'd like to do something more, such as reading, start out with like a 5-minute timer. Say, okay, I'm going to read for 5 minutes today. Because like we talked about earlier with the 1 minute, I bet you can find 5 minutes somewhere. I feel like I have a crazy schedule, and I definitely have a couple blocks of 5 minutes throughout the day where I could say, you know what, I'm gonna start reading. And what might end up happening is when you start doing this activity you enjoy, it's not going to be just 5 minutes. You might continue doing that for more time, and it might add a lot of value to you. So finding these activities and start to incorporate them more. Ultimately, one of the best parts about minimalism is that we're able to spend less time, money, and energy doing stuff we don't want to do, and more time, money, and energy doing the things we want to do. So by incorporating things that you enjoy on a more regular daily basis, it's going to add so much value to your life, and also maybe even help you develop, really important skills to you. So whatever it is for you, even if it's just one thing, that you haven't done as much of, try to incorporate that on a regular basis and you won't regret it. My sixth habit to incorporate to help live a more minimal life has to do with staying hydrated, and specifically staying hydrated with very healthy beverages. I'm always so surprised that despite the incredible benefits of staying hydrated, there are so many people who aren't hydrated. Personally, I'm always carrying around my trusty reusable water bottle wherever I go, when I'm at work, when I'm at home, even when I'm going out and about on errands or going for a walk, I always have my water. So it's not really an issue for me. The recommendation is roughly whatever your body weight is, divide it by 2, and that would be the number of ounces of water to drink. For example, someone who is 150 pounds would want to be drinking about 75 ounces of water or other similar beverage. I have found for me that staying hydrated helps me feel my best and keeps me very energetic at all times, and to help everything run smoothly in our bodies. So for me, beverages on a daily basis, like I mentioned, I'm drinking a lot of water, but I also do really enjoy herbal teas as well as matcha green tea. It's Japanese green tea. These are things that I will often incorporate on a daily basis. I'll often put some matcha green tea into a breakfast smoothie, or I call it a matcha latte, but it's really a smoothie. For me, I found that these beverages have really helped me feel my best and given me a lot of energy, so they're definitely things that I incorporate on a regular basis. So I'd encourage you to kind of think a little bit about how much water or other related beverages you are drinking and see if increasing the amount of water you're drinking is helpful. So maybe keep track of it for a day and just see kind of where you're at so far. And who knows, maybe some of the physical symptoms you've been feeling have just been a result of dehydration. Now, number 7 is aligning your life with your values. I think this is definitely an important one, and it's actually fairly tough to align your life with your values. It looks very different for other people, and we all make different choices based upon these values. Ultimately, it can really help us just feel better about ourselves, but also, you know, if we have these certain values that we care about, living a lifestyle that matches with those. For example, if you are someone who values ethical working conditions, you probably want to make sure that you're purchasing clothing from ethical clothing companies and not big box stores or companies that produce a lot of fast fashion. If you are someone who values health, then you probably want to make sure that the foods you're buying are not overly processed and full of unhealthy fats, lots of sodium, or lots of added sugar. Personally, I know that the conventional lifestyle that many have in the US does not reflect my values, and so therefore I live an unconventional lifestyle by certain metrics, but that means that they align to what I want and what I care about. Ultimately, this can be challenging, and sometimes it might feel like you're the only one doing certain things, or you have to spend a little bit more time trying to figure out and do the research about what does reflect your values, but you'll feel so much more fulfilled. Even though it's not always easy to align your choices and habits with your values, once you're able to do that, I think you'll feel a lot more positively, and you'll know you're making much more of an impact. My last habit for a more minimal life is to practice saying no. In our culture, it's very easy for people to feel like they have to say yes to things. Say yes to attending a gathering because you don't want to hurt someone's feeling. Saying yes to some extra work because you want to be seen by your boss as a really valuable employee. There's a lot of pressure to say yes, and sometimes we just have to remember that it's okay to say no. It's great to say no, especially if you don't want to do something or it's not something that is going to help you feel your best or have good work-life balance. I did make a video previously that goes into more depth of some different ways and situations you might benefit from saying no to, so I will link that up in the cards as well as down in the description if you're curious for more detail. But saying no can be incredibly liberating, and if there are things that you genuinely want to say no to, it's okay. Every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. Every time we say no to something, we're saying yes to something else. What is the trade-off? If you are saying no to something you don't want to do, then you're saying yes to things that maybe matter a lot more to you, such as maybe some of the things we talked about in this video. So that wraps up this video on the 8 simple habits for a more minimal life. I hope this was very helpful to you. I'm also very curious, in your own life, what have been some of the things that you've done to help yourself live a more minimal life? Or if this is something new for you, which of these 8 tips I shared today do you think you'll want to try first or might be the most helpful to you? I'd love to hear from you, and I'll be responding to comments. I hope you guys liked the new setup today. I am trying to upgrade parts of the channel. I listened to a lot of your feedback from a survey from earlier, and I have some plants here. I am excited to start caring for plants. I am very new to that, so let me know kind of your thoughts about the space if you'd like as well. If you want to check out any of our past videos, you can actually do so over here, and if you have not already, you can subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up, so I hope you'll be part of our community. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.